Welcome to Edison TV. My name's Vivian Parry, and today we want to introduce you to Quincy Raven, the first US-focused hire of Aspire Global, the online gaming platform that's seen spectacularly rapid growth of late, with each set of quarterly earnings outpacing the last. Quincy, you're very welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a bit more about Quincy Raven, and what a spectacular name, and your career in the gaming industry.
You got it. Well, I'm a resident here of Las Vegas. I've been here 16 years now, and my background spans the largest suppliers that you could think of in the gaming industry, from a technology, content, and everything in between. I've opened markets, I've grown markets, and very excited to be here with Aspire now. It's a company that is very relevant in markets outside of the United States, and I'm fortunate enough to be employee number one on the ground to be the tip of the spear, as we say, and bring us in, set up operations, and build quite a business here.
And you're hinting there that the reason you joined Aspire, but what excites you in particular about the Aspire story and how they've positioned themselves in the gaming space that's up so spectacularly on the internet?
Yeah, it's actually a great story with Aspire. So the company itself, we started 15 years ago as a B2C operator. And so with the B2C origins, the products that we have built and put together have really been with the eye on the customer, and that customer being the player, right? That player journey, that engagement, and really offering the entertainment venue that they want to see, be it iGaming, be it sport, and anything that really connects that player back to that operator brand. But with the B2C origin, while very important, at the same time, my timing, I personally think is quite nice, in that the company made a decision to pivot completely into being a B2B operator, and be a provider across the globe. So today, Aspire's in 30 different jurisdictions, also here in the US through our content brands and Paraplay. But with the pivot, we actually just closed last week on the funding. That gives us a tremendous amount of capital to invest in this market as well as other key markets. But it's no surprise that the US is the #1 priority for the company. But it gives us an opportunity to take our heritage of B2C and take our products and everything that we effectively built for ourselves and put it in front of the customer base here in the US that the growth here is explosive. And what we've got in the marketplace are a number of seasoned operators, but also you probably have more new operators than old, right? Because this market is growing at such a rapid pace. And so what really gets me excited, and not to dwell necessarily on technology, but on the strategic acquisitions that have been made to build the value chain from the PAM, from the sport, from the content. And then with the management team that I'm surrounded with, and at the board level. So earlier this year, when Aspire reached out and we started having the conversations of, could I potentially, come over and lead the company here in the US, I of course was, talking with Sake, our CEO, and working with Barack, the founder, and talking with the board on what is the strategy. And as you might imagine, we interrogated one another back and forth on what, how do we see this space and what level of investment is required. And I was clearly pleasantly surprised. I just about 1 month ago, I was actually out in Malta meeting with all the operations teams. And it really kind of fortified the vision that I've been talking with the management team about. And I would say I'm very fortunate to be here. I think it's a wonderful combination.
Now, there are a lot of folks piling into this market because, as you say, its growth has been absolutely spectacular, really explosive. So how do you think Aspire will make its mark, and how do you see your key priorities as this tip of the spear, as you put it?
Yes. Yeah. So I think there's a couple of points here. So there have been absolutely operators, or rather suppliers, that have come into the market over the last few years. From, we go back to when New Jersey opened up, with a core iGaming market, to the repeal of PASPA. And then you've got a lot of market entrants coming in to a highly regulated market. So there have been a number of suppliers that I would suggest they kind of dip their toe in to see, will this work? It's hard work to be in the US. It's a highly regulated market, and we have players. While iGaming and online sport wager might be new as a category, the American player understands what they want to do. The American player, loves NFL, loves Major League Baseball, all of this. And there's an Americanization that is required to any technology that comes in. And then also with that, it's the personnel, and it's localizing what the offering is. And so as part of my coming on board, obviously before the announcement, we outlined plans of what will the US look like as an operation. Because what the US will not look like for Aspire Global is a country or a region we operate in. What I'm doing going into next year is I'm establishing our first office here in Las Vegas. I will replicate the operations teams, from the CRM teams to customer support, managed trading services, all of these things you would expect in any robust supplier relationship. It will all be localized here to the US. And that's something over the last specifically 3 years, the client base, the partners, you go from state to state, whether they're corporates or they're tribals, they're desperate for the technical, the product, and the business representation to be here on this continent, because time zones are time zones. And, there's an understanding of the regional markets, where collegiate might be more important than professional sports, et cetera. So the difference there is we have, excellent technology. And going back to the points I made earlier on, we built the technology for ourselves. So it's kind of the eat your own dog food mentality, right? We look at CRM, and you're probably seeing a lot of this in the press. The cost of acquisition per player today in the United States, it's astronomical, depending on the market that you're in. We have tools in place in the tech stack itself that actually allow the operator to make those acquisition and retention decisions on their own, rather than having to go out to third party after third party after third party to kind of ask them how to run their own business. So there's a level of expertise, there's localization, and there's the commitment to building the US, Aspire Global US organization out, rather than it being supported solely from overseas.
That's fascinating. So very much a US operation with a US look and feel all the way through it. So just to conclude, what can we expect to see from you in 2022 as you get going?
Yeah, well, in 2022, in first quarter, that's when the operations teams are starting to be pulled in. I actually was in some office spaces 2 weeks ago here in Las Vegas, taking a look at where are we going to put the teams? Heck, where am I going to be sitting? And identifying the right talent. And the nice thing about Las Vegas is the talent bed here is growing rapidly, because the biggest names in our space are recruiting, and they've finally figured out that Las Vegas is the right place to be doing it. And so we're going to stand up our hub here, and where certain jurisdictions require personnel on the ground, of course we'll adapt to that. But in 2022, you can expect to see Aspire Global US as a fully formed company here, and taking all three of our group companies into a single market.
It sounds like a very exciting 2022 for you, Quincy, and I am thrilled to have interviewed a man called Quincy Raven. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. It's my pleasure being here. Thank you.